Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations about network marketing. I'm BK, and over at the other end, as usual, Dr. Wayne. Hi, Dr. Wayne.
Hi BK. Hi everyone.
So my usual question for the day to start off is always, what are we going to talk about today, Doc?
And I think from last time we spoke about lead generation and we put some really great concepts together. And the feedback, especially within our teams, and is interesting. Like we can give them the skills and everything else. And even yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone who has the skills, has the ability, and for some reason wasn't getting what she wanted to get done. So then we just dug deeper into that, and I compared it to, say, if you're working in a business. So now you're actually either self-employed in a business, right? Or you are working for someone. Okay, so remember we talked about this in another episode in terms of JOB, just over broke, self-employed. And self-employed is typically you're now working for the bank and you're still JOB because we have so many mortgages, etc. But the theme came out that what happened, we'll talk about if you're working for someone, you've got tasks, you've got things to do, you've got cleaning and sweeping or making coffee or, going to the fax machine, going to the computer, doing this. You've got all these tasks that you've got to do. And even if you're self-employed, for example, myself as a practitioner, I've just got back-to-back appointments all the time. If you're self-employed as a contractor, you'll have your lead generation coming in where you've got different jobs you go to. So your day is planned. You've got different things to do all the time. So now what happens, there's two scenarios. Now we've got the person who is doing this part-time. So we've now got the full-time basis or the full-time in working. And then they're doing, say, trying to put in an hour to 2 hours a week, 1 to 2 hours a day into their part-time network marketing. And remembering this 1 or 2 hours can actually generate that much wealth in 3 to 4 years that it will far surpass a normal business, right? When we do it correctly. And then we've got the self-employed person. And as said, typically there's all the different jobs and different things. This is a good self-employed business, okay? So we've got things to do and everything is working out. And then once again, we can have 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours for that person as well, okay? Still part-time. And then you've got the other person who has now said they've got to an income stream or they've made the decision, I'm going to do this full time because they have enough money behind them and they're going to do it full time. Now what happens is everything that you're about to do is determined by how you feel. And a lot of us, we don't actually put it into a business structure. So what happens, or once again, coming back to the discussion yesterday, I woke up and I just felt a bit tired and I just didn't feel like I just didn't have the energy to put all that together, to do that webinar or to do that Zoom call that I know I should have. And I got to 1 o'clock, and then after lunch, I actually felt a bit tired because I had a big bit, and all these things then actually come in. Whereas if we went to work at 8:30, even though you might not feel, over the moon about what you're doing, you still did the task. And what happens, I described it like, even this morning, I woke up and I said, yep, I'm going to do my exercises. I planned it the night before. I'm going to do my exercises as soon as I wake up. And even then, I literally had to pull myself by the collar to go and do it. And once I started doing it, I was okay. That was after I meditated, of course, meditated first, then I did my exercises. So it doesn't matter who you are, you're still going to always have this battle with the mind in terms of achieving whatever you want to do in life. But what I've found, and BK will see if you're similar, what I've found this week is, yes, I've talked to different people in my downline and even crossline and just within the network. And the same theme is basically coming up. They have the skills are laid out. They have the scripts and the words, and even going into social media or even going into they're talking with their friends, etc. They've got 3, 4 different scripts, and yet they're still finding it difficult to make those 2 calls or to send those 2 emails out. And it's basically between the ears, what's between our ears in terms of, yes, the skill is there, but I think you said it quite nicely, is the will there? So what have you been finding, BK, as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have been in the industry for a while, right? And there's a saying that it's either a will issue or it's a skill issue. And oftentimes we kind of think it's a skill issue, but actually it is usually the will issue that is there. Because the good thing about industry is we basically just have to do a set of simple, repeatable tasks over time, right? It is not easy. It is simple, but it's not easy because when we do those tasks, we do get rejections. And I guess human beings, we all are, we kind of don't like the feeling of being rejected, right? So that could be one of the reasons. But, going back to what you were talking about just now, I kind of think that if we dive a little bit deeper into human motivation, when we are in a job, no matter how secure the job is, I think okay, the basic premise of a job is usually for employers, their role or their goal is to pay you just enough so that you do not leave, right? Because that's how they maximize their dollars and cents, right?
Yeah.
And for the person who's in a job, no matter how highly paid they are, they always have an underlying sense of knowing that if they don't deliver at least the bare minimum that their bosses are expecting, they can get fired.
Yeah.
Right. So that is probably one of the reasons why they still do the minimum or the maximum that they can do, because they are motivated by this idea that if I do not deliver the minimum that I can, right, I will get fired and I don't get my paycheck and I cannot make my mortgage bills and I cannot, support my family and so on. And perhaps that is why they get going. They do the things that they're supposed to do. They deliver their tasks on time. They get to work every day from 8:30 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever it is. But then when you add this other aspect of where we are now, when a lot of times when people enter the industry, they are part-timers, they don't kind of have that sense of fear in network marketing, right? No. There's nothing that says that, hey, if you're not going to make those 2 phone calls today, you're going to get fired from your job, you're going to lose your business, right? That is probably why. So when we look at I was just talking with Dr. Wayne just now, when we look at some of the stories of the successful leaders in the business, many times one of the common thread that they talk about is that when they first got started, they had their backs to the wall. They were literally caught between a rock and a hard place, right? And I think that in a sense emulates the same scenario when you are in a job. When you kind of know that if you are not going to deliver, you're going to get an X and you're going to get fired. So interesting question for you, Doc. How can we move ourselves into this position? I mean, it may not be the ideal position. We know that to motivate ourselves, there are 2 ways. One is, of course, fear, and the other one, obviously, is a higher vision, right? And so what are your thoughts about this?
Exactly the same. It's unfortunately that's the way the human mind works. If you listen to our chatter, and I think in one of the meditation one that we went through, we kind of touched on this, or touched on it, then went in deeper about it. So literally, it's I call it the silent witness. It's actually witnessing yourself saying things that maybe are negative or doing things that are negative. And typically what happens is we don't even know that is occurring. It's so automatic in our brain that we don't know that it's occurring. So, for example, if we just use the 2 phone calls as an example, that is our DMO, that's what we want to do for the day. what will happen if there is other emotional context that has said, I've done this before and I've failed many times, then what will happen is we will then create scenarios that will then not allow us to go there. Okay, so not allow us to make those calls. So, there's a social media post. We'll go and have a look at that. Or I need to go and write this article about that. And remembering we've only got, if you're doing this part-time, you've only got 1 or 2 hours. And what happens now is we're not watching ourselves do this, and all of a sudden 2 hours is gone. I've got to go and have my tea. I've got to have my dinner, and we're basically doing things that aren't actually productive. And one of the best ways to overcome it is basically make the list of things you're going to do the night before. So if you make that list the night before, what happens, it's like anything, if you're going to go on holidays and it's the first time you're about to go to this particular really nice place, and you've got it all planned, you've done all the planning and all the rest of it, and it's the night before, how excited are you? The brain now goes into another level of enthusiasm, and you know what you're going to do, you know what time the flights are, and when you're going to sleep, and probably not being, some people can't sleep and that as well, but I think you can understand what I'm trying to say in terms of if we can have our DMO or the things that we really want to achieve and the name of the people that we want to actually get in contact with the night before, and we have this written down, what is going to be our schedule, who we have to get back to, and it's kind of then putting that down in a priority list, and you cannot go and do anything else until you do these couple of things. And it's kind of like, going on from the conversation we've had before, is that when our backs are against the wall, we will historically come to the fore. So what we mean by this is if you've got a part-time job, we'll use part-time or full-time. If you've got a job or you're self-employed and you are now putting in so many hours into your working day, therefore there's no back against the wall because you are being paid and you are actually okay because you've had that history behind you. But now let's take that away and say, for example, you are now without a job. You are now with your back against the wall because the payments, the mortgage and everything else, you have to now make a decision. And so once again, there's probably many decisions to be made here, but what I generally find is there's 2 ways the brain will respond. One way is, oh, this is too tough. I'll curl up in the fetal position in the corner and do nothing and go and seek Centrelink or go and seek some sort of benefits, for example. This is the person who has not got a job, right? They just curl up in the corner and say, no, this is too hard for me. Or what you'll do then is you'll say, hey, I need to do something. Does network marketing fit the picture of what I want to do? Does the product and the ethos and everything, is it profitable? You've made all those decisions. And remembering probably most of the people who are on this, watching this and listening to this are already network marketers, but there might be a number who are not. You've made that decision. Yes, it is. You made the decision with the company. Then what you need to do now, or the important decision now is to do something with that. And it's the will that's important. It's the strength of your will then determine your success. So is it, what, and we've mentioned this before, but just going over it again is, what is your why? What is the thing that's going to drive you to get your back off the wall? What is going to allow you to push yourself forward, whereby when you do have those no's and that roller coaster of the emotion going up and down, that's going to allow you to be successful in network marketing or whatever else you may wish to do.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that the other side of the motivation scale, which is a vision, is definitely much more able to draw you to a higher plane. I mean, sometimes when we are in a comfort zone, we kind of do not see some of the hidden pitfalls that we have.
Yeah.
And perhaps a good thing to do is to do some self-assessment. I guess the question that we could ask ourselves is, are we settling in what we are? Can we be doing more? Are we able to provide for our families a better quality of life? But you're just stopping there and saying that, okay, I mean, at least they have 3 meals on the table, and that's good enough. But could you have been doing more? So the question is to ask ourselves is, are we settling? And oftentimes we would find that if we are honest to ourselves, we would say that we are actually settling for certain things. And then you got to make a decision to move to a next higher level of motivation. When Dr. Wayne was talking about it just now, I just recalled something that might help some of you. There was this challenge that a certain speaker was talking about some time back, and I listened to it. And sometimes we want to reconstruct, or we want to create a scenario where your backs are against the wall. So what he did was he challenged the person that he was talking to and asked them, think about the person you detest the most or you hate the most. And I believe there's a certain website where you can actually commit to giving that person a certain amount of money, if you do not complete your goals by a certain date, So that is something you could do. You set a target whereby if by 3 months' time you do not hit a certain rank in your company, you're going to give like a painful amount of money. It could be $10,000, it could be $20,000 to the person you hate the most, right? And that in a way kind of puts your back against the wall, and perhaps that might propel you forward. That is one way that we have seen before that might work for some people. I mean, if I take myself as an example, right? Whenever I start to push myself to want to lose weight, it's because when I look at myself in the mirror and I don't like the way I look in the mirror, right? So some people might be like that. Some people might be like that. So you may want to do something like that. But of course, I think what we are trying to encourage here for everyone is, if you really can, and you sit down and you do the meditation that we talked about earlier on, center yourself, examine your lives, and then looking at asking deeper questions, you realize that you may not want to settle. You may want to aspire to a much higher level of quality of life or quality of vision that you are all destined to have.
Yeah, very, very true. And just getting back to the centering that you spoke about there, when you're in real life circumstances, as mentioned earlier, the important thing is I call it silent witnessing. So you're actually aware of what you're doing and saying. So, because the mind is so repetitive, typically in the negative, we don't even know that that's occurring. So a good thing, as you kind of said there before, BK, was when you're sitting and you're noticing you're not being productive, try and look inside and silent witness, why is that occurring? What emotion do you feel now? Why are you feeling paralyzed? And a good thing to do is just feel that emotion and go, why am I paralyzed? And just ask the why maybe 5 times until you get deeper and deeper down into it. And what happens is when that awareness of those 5 depths or 3 depths, whatever, as the awareness goes deeper, you then actually let go of the tentacles and the different things that are holding you back. And this is the importance of meditation. So say, I'll use paralyzed as an example. Say you feel paralyzed, and say the amount of paralyzed is that amount, right? And when you meditate, you might basically now move it down a bit, okay? And then what happens, life experience will then maybe bring it back up, and then you meditate, and then life experience. But if you can then meditate, and then when you have a life experience, and then actually look at it from a self-witnessing point of view, then you then actually drop it down more as well. So, and then what the mind then wants is then proof. So typically what we want to do now is to do actions that will then prove that. And this is where, if we go back to what we were talking about before, if you find that you're paralyzed, and then we've got to now find an action, and maybe the action is writing down 2 names the night before and basically then meditating on these 2 people to allow a positive experience to occur, whatever that may be, even if it's no thanks, but thank you for getting back to me. That's a positive experience. And leaving the door open, for example. So it's then putting things into being aware of something, and then putting an action into place that allows you to take that awareness into a positive experience.
Yeah, I find that helps a lot as well. So don't write down like a massive list if that scares you. Sometimes people start off by writing a massive list. Maybe start off with something, a bite size that you know you can manage, that is not too difficult, because I think the human psyche is also helped by little bits of rewards. If you feel that you have done something, you feel good, and you have this surge of positive energy that can also spur you on. So write down bite size, like what Dr. Wayne was talking about. If you just write down 2 names per day, sometimes in this industry we overestimate what we can achieve in a year, but we underestimate what we can achieve in 3 to 5 years. And there is a need for us to allow ourselves a bit of patience and let the things that we are doing accumulate. But if you can consistently do 2% a day for the next 2 to 3 years, you will be amazed at the results that you can, for those of you who are starting out, you can achieve in that period of time. It's just that we often don't allow the mechanics of compounding. This is a wonderful law. I think is still not 100% proven, but a lot of people ascribe it to Einstein, saying that he says the 6th miracle in the world is the law of compounding, which I think it is probably true in a large extent. But when we allow that to occur, 2% a day, the efforts will compound, and you'll be amazed at what you can do in a short period of time.
Yeah. And even if we go back to, say, exercising, and what you said there is just so true, and this happens to everyone. We say, for example, now we get all enthusiastic and we make, as you said, don't make the big list, but that's what we do. We will go and make the big list, all the big things. So I'll use exercise as an example. So if someone's talking about exercise, I'll give them some very basic exercises to do to start with. And I'll give them, say, for example, this is what we want to get to in 2 weeks' time. So typically, this is 80% of people, what they will do is they'll go to the 2 weeks, what they want to achieve in 2 weeks, and do that on day 1. Now, why does this occur? Because the brain says that if I can do this now, I'm going to achieve it so much faster. But unfortunately, the subconscious, because of beliefs that aren't really serving us, that actually now creates, if we do that, we're going to be sore, we're not going to be able to exercise for a couple of days, we're going to feel terrible because we've overdone it. We'll feel good in the moment, okay, because we're warm and all the rest of it, but for the next 2 or 3 days, we're that sore, we can't sit down, we can't do this and all the rest of it. So, and it's exactly the same with this. Like, even some people, 2 per day might be too many. Just start with 2 per week. That allows you to start off feeling good about it, okay? And the person who now goes and makes, I've come across people who'll then try and do 20 a day. So no, that's too many. There's too many. You haven't got your systems in place. There's too many things that can go astray. You won't be able to follow up, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because when we understand marketing, we know it's the 7th or 9th time you get in contact with someone that people are now ready to actually make that next positive step. Yes, I'll actually join your organization, for example. So please, as BK mentioned there, really important to understand is start small, get the positive strokes so you feel good about that, and then build on that. It'll make such a difference to moving forward.
Yeah, it's also very interesting that a lot of times when we look at our results and we look at things that we do, human beings are very prone to self-blame. We like to blame ourselves very quickly, or we like to say that something must be wrong with me or something that I've done wrong. I mean, it could be because of programming from young when our parents always, if you've done something wrong, you get scolded and so on. But the thing is, sometimes like what Dr. Wayne was talking about just now, the idea that when you start out and you talk to someone and the person doesn't give you a positive response, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have done a bad thing or you have done a wrong, you messed up your prospecting and all that. In fact, it's usually not the case. What happens is that the reason why in the marketing world we talk about what human beings need about 7 to 9 touches before they make a positive commitment, right? It's because sometimes from the touch 1 to touch 5, you may have found them at a bad time, right? Or maybe when they were about to commit and they were on the phone, they were already on the computer about to sign in and sign up for as a membership, right? What happens is the spouse or the kids start calling daddy or mommy and they get distracted and they walk away, right? And then they forgot about the sign up process altogether. So your next touch, the reminder that you have, is actually going to say, oh yeah, I actually was about to just sign up, but I forgot about it, right? Or I was distracted or I was called away. So don't think that because even if you do very little things now and it's not seeing results, it doesn't mean that it's because of you. It could be just because the other side of the issue, the person has certain things that have cropped up. And as long as you just keep going,
yes, you
will see the results. I like something that a speaker said the other day, and that this is from a good book, right? It says that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. But he had a very interesting interpretation of it, because he said that in network marketing, you'll find that the people who persist are often the ones who reap the harvest or reap a lot of results, right? It's not because they did a lot more, or rather what you find is that what you sow is often you'll get back a lot more. It's because there are a lot of people who have started sowing in the past for you on your behalf, but they have given up, right? They have made that 1 or 2 touch to a friend or prospect, and they have not followed up on the 3, 4, 5, and 6 touch when they could have closed the person, but they just let it go, right? Because they felt that they have done something wrong and the friend is already saying no. So the person that persists is going to be the person that will bring the reward. I mean, Dr. Wayne and I, we have obviously experienced some of this as well. When we talk to somebody and the person say, a year ago, a friend of mine mentioned this to me, right? I'm actually very interested in this. How do I sign up, right? So you notice that then you become the one that reap the reward from the efforts of somebody who has probably left the field. And so what we are suggesting to you is that, as you start to do small things, be patient with yourself, be consistent, even though it's small little actions like 2 a day, you will see the results in time.
Most definitely. So, and just getting back to the concept of, yes, we can, like last time we spoke, it was basically about skills, and which was great. And what we find is we've got to then come back to the will, what's between our ears, and what can we do then to help people to get over that. And once you go through the processes that we've gone through, and then you actually act upon those processes just in little bits, don't overdo it, you'll find success creeps up on you nicely.
Yeah, so I think with that, we wrap up another episode of Candid Conversations about network marketing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for dropping by, whether it's at our website at networkmarketerpodcast.com, or whether it's you're listening through YouTube or even on Facebook, right? Drop us a comment, drop us a line, and let us know what would you like us to talk about the next time.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. Thanks, BK. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.